Thank you. All right. Hey, just make you a moderator. In case somebody else wants to come up and ask some questions, I won't be able to look at my phone, but you can come to that. You manage that phone if you don't mind. Just the line, don't you? Now we're gonna do I'm gonna finish up a pro forma that I started 2 days ago. And if y'all want to follow me, it's zoomwithalvin.live. And the password is more time. I'm gonna put that in the chat. Zoomwithalvin.live. This is man, I was looking at this thing this morning, and this is a vulnerable spot. Because all I'm doing is I'm just building this to see if it works. And I think it works. And zoomwithalvin.live if you guys want to follow me. And we're going to get that thing started right now. It's 12:30. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Let's see the big screen today. So we're going to go back to the top and start over. Let's kind of start over, kind of walk through what we've done in the last couple of days. So this is the project we have in Princeton, Texas. It's on 16.9 acres. It's Dreamville on Monticello, 300 Monticello Drive. We've on this almost 2 years now, a year and a half of design and putting horizontal water and sewer and all that stuff in the ground. And now we're at a place where we're ready to keep that piece going. And then start the vertical construction somewhere around September. That would probably be my latest date that I think you'll hear. And so what I've done, instead of doing this in 2 phases with 2 phases of 200 units, I kind of built this to where we could have 1 phase of 400 units. And again, if you guys want to follow me, zoomwithalvin.live. And I'll kind of show you how we're building this model for an affordable project. Turn the market rate deal into what could be considered workforce housing. And so just kind of go through some of my assumptions here. We got rent growth of none in the first year, of course, 3% the second year, and then 4%, 5% across the board year after year. Physical vacancy, of course, 100% in year 1, 50% in year 2, and I'm modeling a 4% vacancy across the board from there. And that could be a little high, especially for this market. But you know, most properties right now in this submarket are 97, 98% occupied, but you know, you don't want to forecast that, because if you don't hit that, then you're stuck. So I'm leaving myself a little margin of error there with 4% vacancy. I've got an economic vacancy of 3%. And what that means is that you don't have 3% of your units where people are living and not paying. You might think you're too good to have that, but I promise you it'll happen. So we've got a 3% vacancy there. So effectively, man, we've got a 7% vacancy factor between those 2 numbers. And that can equate to a lot of money. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. Then we're going to do our other income growth, and I'm going to make that 3% across the board. Because with inflation and everything else going up, sometimes double-digit increases, like our insurance went up across the board last year, over 100%, and in some markets as high as 300%. So I can raise my other income. That way across the board, 3%, 3%. I don't know why it didn't copy and drag across. So I know how to work Excel, it just didn't want to work for me. So y'all don't judge me. And then we've got, so what I'm gonna do then, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna verify my rents here, because that's a big deal, making sure I got the right market rents. But what I did here, we've got 400 units, and essentially 200 of those units, if we're doing this as a workforce housing deal with tax-exempt bonds, they will require that 50% of the units be set aside for people that make a certain percent of the area median income. And so the election that we've chosen is to have, so 50% at market. So that means whatever the market rate is, that's what those residents will pay. And then on the next piece of that, 30% of the units will be set aside for people that make 80% of the area median income. Now, when you get into affordable housing and workforce housing, which they're the same thing, just workforce sounds better than saying affordable, because so many people think that affordable housing is a bad thing. Man, my phone want to keep ringing. I just turn it off. How about that? So many people think that affordable housing is such a bad thing, but I'll explain that to you here. So when you get into affordable housing in an area that has, say, $100,000 area median income, well, yeah, that's a good round number. When we are appealing to a resident base that makes 60% to 80% of that, 50% of that to 80% of that, that's $50,000 a year to $80,000 a year. That's really, really not that that poor in some eyes. I mean, they're making a lot of money, enough to take care of themselves, but in a market where that could be, again, the area median income is 100,000. The rents are typically based on that $100,000 payout, not somebody that makes 50. So that person may have to live completely out of the area and a long way away from where they actually want to work or whatever, just to be able to afford to live there. I'll show you something else on this model that I didn't share yesterday. If you notice, when we talk about affordable housing or workforce housing, you see where my cursor is here? 120% of AMI. So AMI actually goes up to 100%, 120% of the area median income. So that $100,000 area where the area median income is 100,000, you can make literally $120,000 a year and be considered to be affordable. But what we focus on are the areas between 80% and 60%. So that means in that $100,000 neighborhood, our ideal tenant makes $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Not a bad tenant base, right? Okay. So what that means is sometimes, well, all the time, those tenants' rents may be a little bit less than market. Maybe, not all the time. Because what the smart people that came up with these formulas say is that a person doesn't spend more than 30% of their income on housing. So if you make $80,000 in this 80,000 in this 80% AMI bracket, 80,000 times 0.30, that's $24,000 a year that you can pay in rent. Divide that by 12, that's $2,000 a month. As you can see on my model here, that all of my rents in this 80% category should not even be reduced, because none of my rents, except this 3-bedroom, are over $2,000. So I could literally have the same rents for market rate as I have for my 80% resident. And that makes a big difference in income. I'll just show you how much of a difference it makes in income just on this one unit. So we're gonna come across here, 53 units, it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 800 square feet. I think I had the rent here at $1,595. That was assuming that it was $200 below less. That's $1 million a year, okay? $1,795, because it's the same as market, that's $1,000,001 a year. $1,150,000, that's 100, that's just on that one particular 43 units. That's a lot of money laying on the table. But when you get down to your 50% AMI or 60% AMI units, that resident makes $60,000 a year in that scenario. So then you would have 60,000 times 0.30, and that's $18,000 a year divided by 12. That resident can pay $1,500 a month in rent. These two really, compared to my market rate at $1,795, we're losing about $200 a month here. Compared to the $1,835 on the 2.2, we will be losing about $300 here. And then we'd be losing about $300 a month here. So when I say losing, that means that resident can only pay 30% of their income in rent. Their rents are a little bit less than market rate rent. And that's how affordable workforce housing rents are calculated. And that's how this stuff works. And so that's why in areas where the area median income is $30,000 or $25,000 or $40,000 a year, the area median income being that low, you cannot construct a new apartment complex or new housing over there, because how do you pay for it? The only way you pay for it is if you actually had a voucher or some kind that would guarantee you the rents there. And right now, HUD is not passing out any project-based Section 8 vouchers. What they do pass out now are choice vouchers for people that have housing vouchers. And those choice vouchers allow that resident to live anywhere that they want to live. Now, let's assume that you have this property and you're doing this and you accept Section 8 vouchers. This area, we're using $100,000 a year area median income as just as a standard for this particular model. So you've got a fireman, family of 4, he makes $50,000 a year. That $50,000 a year, he needs a 3-bedroom apartment. We've got 3 of those units available right here. His rent, he makes $50,000 a year times 0.30. That means he can only pay $1,500. $15,000 a year in rent. Divide that by 12, that's $1,250 a month. The market rent on that unit is $2,135. So $2,135 minus $1,250, $2,135 plus $1,250 minus, that's $885 a month. This particular fireman in this scenario could literally go to the housing authority and get a Section 8 voucher that would allow him to stay in this 3-bedroom unit for $2,135 a month. And you have a fireman that makes $50,000 a year with a Section 8 voucher, paying you $2,100 a month for this particular unit. That's how affordable housing works. So you think about people that have Section 8 vouchers as being those people, or those people that don't have any income, or they're poor, or they're this, or they're that. Well, in an area where the area median income is $100,000 a year, somebody that makes $50,000 is not below the poverty line, but they're way below the area median income. And so 9 times out of 10, as a developer, when we show up in a city and we're talking about doing affordable workforce housing, we have people that roll their nose up at these developments because they don't understand that chances are they qualify to live in affordable housing. That's just a harsh reality. And so this particular deal is in Collin County. And the median income, well, let me do something here. County name, put it out here, Collin. And the median income, yeah, that is Collin County. And the median income is $82,000 a year. And so, and what I'm gonna do, there is a spreadsheet, or there's a link that I'm gonna link to this model that when I type this in, it'll literally go to the Novogradac website. It'll pull all this information in and it'll populate those rents. And then what I'll be able to do is I'll take these rents from this 80% and 60% and make sure that my 80% rents are good and my 60% rents are good. That'll be the next thing I do. I won't do that on this particular call, but I'm just kind of walking through the setup of this spreadsheet right now. And so this is 1795. We've got 1835. And the reason I'm changing these for now is so that I can get my everything situated on the spreadsheet, and then I'll come back and I'll link those to this, and then we'll walk it out. And then yesterday we talked about the absorption of these units. We won't have any units come online until month number 13. We believe that this project's going to be about 30 months to complete it, 400 units. They had told me 16 months for 200 units. If I double it, that's 32 months. I don't think it'll take that long. I think they'll get done 2.5, close to 3 years, 2.5 years. But anyway, we've got 30 units a month coming online that way. And then that way we can walk this out to almost a 2-year period. And that should give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should give us a total of, I don't know if that's all my units or not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is not. That's 185. And then 30. 30. And what this should be here, this should equal all of my units that have. So we got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 11, 12, 13 times 30. It's 390, and we'll make that. There we go. There's 400 units.
Hey, Alvin, before you move forward, someone had a question on the Zoom chat. Is what you typically look for in the land? You kind of started off with that, the basics of it, and they wanted to know what that was, and answer to that question.
That's a good question. Thank you for that. And I'm glad you asked that question, whoever asked it, because the purpose of me doing this really, a lot of people have me say, we're going to build 20,000 units in 5 years. And how do you do that? I've had a lot of people tell me I was stupid for saying that. But what I really believe is that I can empower a lot of people to go out and find land opportunities in great areas that have area median incomes above $80,000. So you can Google right now, any zip code or any market that you know, and see what the area median income is. If it's above $80,000, that's a great start. And then we're looking for land that is unentitled, not already set up for apartments. And why would I say that? Because I'll give you a great, for instance, I'm going to show you on this particular spreadsheet, we paid for this particular land $7.5 million for 16 acres because it was already set up for 400 units. If we had gotten that land the way the guys that sold it to us for did, they probably paid, then they bought 104 acres. And those 104 acres were probably about 20,000 an acre. So 20,000 times 104, they paid $2 million for that whole 104 acre tract of land. They spent doing all the engineering and the layouts for this. They probably spent another $1.5 million maybe $2 million, getting all the entitlements and everything in place. They wound up with 285 single-family home lots that were worth probably 40,000 apiece. Times almost 300, I think it was 284. Just use 300 as a ballpark. So 300 times 40, that's 12 million. They sold this piece to us for 7.5 million, so that's 19 million. And then they had 82 townhome lots that they sold for roughly 60,000 apiece. So that's another 4.5 million. They turned a $4 million investment into about $24 million just by getting the entitlements in place. So in looking for land, we're looking for land that has an area median income of above $80,000 a year. And then we are looking for unentitled land that is in an area that we believe will get, that we won't have any problem changing the zoning and changing the entitlement process. That's a lengthy process. It can take 6 months to a year. But as you can see, I just told you 104 acres that they paid $2 million for, it turned it into $24 million by spending a couple of $1 million on the entitlements. And so when we can find those types of opportunities. Sure.
Yeah, so on the entitlements, as Alvin spoke, you can add that value, but whenever it's entitled, that means it's approved by your local authority for what it's being built. So as you said, you can't go back at that point and really make any changes to benefit your project or he did on his. So.
Okay. And so that's what we look for in land opportunities. And in doing that, that gives us the ability to, I mean, you can monetize yourself all the way through the process if you're controlling the dirt phase of it. But let me see, where am I on this spreadsheet? So we went through, oh, this is the absorption. Why is my audio? Okay. So what we've done here is we have absorbed 400 units over a process of, let me see, how many months is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months, 13 months. 13 times 30 is 390 plus 10, 400 units. And I'm really curious to see what happens here, but hang on 1 second. Let me put this in. This spreadsheet is not working the way it's supposed to. I'm gonna fix it. Because what this should have shown me was it should have shown me the cumulative amount of units that we had leased up, and not how many are on lease for that month. And I'm gonna see how that affects my income here. But anyway, and then yesterday we went through and put in all the other income. Laundry, covered parking, storage units, which we don't have, pet fees. And I'll kind of run through that really quickly. We've got 400 units. Everybody's gonna have a washer and dryer connection in there and a washer and dryer that we'll pay for. So that's gonna bring an additional, $360,000 a year. We did the math at 800 units, $800 per unit. We're roughly gonna spend $360,000 on that equipment. It'll pay for itself in 1 year. And then for at least the next 2 to 3 years, it'll be really just an income generator. Covered parking, 50% of the property had to be covered. We've got roughly 750 spaces there. So 300 units will pay covered parking. It hails here all the time in Dallas. People love their cars and they will pay to keep their car protected. So that brings an additional couple $100,000 a year there. We've got an amenity fee that pays for the pools, that pays for the landscaping, et cetera, to keep the place beautiful. Right now, I've got that at $40. That's $192,000 a year. It's really low lying fruit. Pets, I'm figuring about 30% of the people will have pets. That's probably way low because everybody I know has a dog, except me. That's $50,000 a year there. Valet trash service at $30 a month. It's $150,000. Late fees, figured about 25% of the property, 28% will pay late every month, that's $75, and that number is growing. App fees, really about $200, but after you net it out and everything, we came down to about $6 a piece on an annual basis. So that's $30,000. That's just a pass-through cost for us, because we will pay for background and credit reports and all that stuff. Forfeited deposits will yield a little bit of money, and then internet. And I think I can raise this. I got a quote yesterday and see, look at the difference $5 makes. What was that? Oh, that was $10. That was $75. We got $360, $360,000 a year, making that $85 is $408,000 a year. The internet that we're charging is 400 meg up and down speed, and it comes with 176 streaming channels of television. So our residents don't need cable, they don't need anything except to pay us $85, and we'll make $408,000 a year from that. We've got a corresponding expense for that, but we're only paying Charter Cable $32 a unit for that. So here's our expenses down in the bottom at $153,000. So we got 408 minus 153, $250,000 a year in income just for thinking about doing that. That's a pretty good day in the park, right? And then our other expenses here, these are some kind of guideline type things that our lenders like to see. On a new deal like this, they're gonna want to see $130 per unit per annual. That's what PUPA stands for, per unit per annum, so per year. So general administrative costs about $150 to $180 per unit per year on a stabilized older asset. Newer asset, we can lower some of those expenses. We've got $125 per door per unit per annum on advertising. Payroll is a big one. They like to see somewhere between $1,000 and $1,450 on income, meaning payroll expenses. And so that's kind of right down the fairway for what I did with our staff yesterday, having 3 people on the inside. We used to have one person per 100 units on the inside, meaning in the office, and 1 person per unit on the outside. With technology, we can do away with one of the people on the inside because we're not taking paper applications or any of that anymore. Everything's done online. So really it's just managing people. So we've got a manager at about $75,000 a year, an assistant at $60,000, and then a leasing / assistant at $40,000 a year. 21% burden. What does that mean? Everybody that walks around here talking about, I only make $40,000 a year. Well, their employer is paying a little bit more than that to have them on payroll. So that's an additional $8,000 at a 21% burden. I only make $15 an hour. Add 25% to that, and that's how much you really cost your boss to hang around the job and do nothing. Anyway, with all of our expenses, we're at 461,000. What did I do? 461,000 a year. That equates to that $1,100 per unit. Right here, per unit per year that we were talking about. Hey, thank y'all for joining us on Clubhouse. If you want to follow me, we are on Zoom with Alvin.live, and the password is MoPac. Pest control, all these expenses, these are just right down the fairway with what we're seeing in the market right now. Insurance is a big number. We used to have insurance at $300 per unit in Texas. Hailstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, all that junk flies through here. Every time you see something happening on the news, trust me, all of our insurance is going up. You may not know it yet, but you'll see it on your next renewal. Your car insurance, your home insurance, everything. Look like we got 12 questions in the chat. I'm gonna stop for a minute and see what those are. Well, comments anyway. Okay, what we look for in land, got it. 80-85K, that's the AMI. Yeah, above 80 always works. Is there a specific acreage of you typically buy? I saw one you're using is 16 acres. Here in Texas, we can typically do somewhere between 20. I'll probably say somewhere between 15 and 20 units per acre is a really safe number. We got 16 acres here, 400 units. That's a little bit more than that, but it's not 25 an acre times 16. 25 times 16. Yeah, it is. It's right at 25,000 an acre. That includes parking and everything like that. Now, a lot of these cities are requiring more green space, a lot less density. And so that's why I'm thinking somewhere closer to 20 units per acre would probably give you a really good number. In a high-rise situation, this guy sent me a deal yesterday, 0.96 acres, platted and already zoned, meaning already approved by the city for 175 units, but that thing is 12 stories high. That's not really what we do, but anyway. So typically somewhere between 15, 18, 20 units per acre will give you a really good ballpark. And this land should be accessible, meaning it should be ready to build. Yeah, good. Oh, Courtney, your answer no, so really good. Thank you for that. So let's see, back to the question at hand. So here's a land acquisition cost. We went through that, went through the entitlements. That's what we paid for it. My hard cost construction. My first, on the 200 units, we had a $38 million budget. And that included a lot of the land improvements to horizontal improvements for both sites. And so coming back in phase 2 or the phase 1 extension, we're thinking that number is going to be somewhere around 30 million. So I've got a $68.5 million hard cost number there. They also have a $2 million contingency there. So that's going to be pretty good. This FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment, appliances, washers and dryers, blinds, office furniture, all of those things. That's what that other FF&E stands for, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Our civil engineering, architect fees, and et cetera, right at 900,000 is what we have in that today, maybe close to $1 million, but I'm gonna leave it at 900. It really is $1 million. $1.2 million municipal fees to the city, tap fees for water and et cetera. That's what that number is. They got a park fee. I was like, man, we're not building a park. Do we have to pay that park fee? Yes, it's $287,000 of that municipal fee. That's how the cities are paying for parks and green space to make these cities nice. Your older cities didn't have those fees on developers way back when, and that's why a lot of these cities right now are not in really great situations because nobody thought that far out. Let's see, legal. Here's a developer fee. So people wonder, what does a developer make on something like this? There it is right there. Sometimes anywhere from 5 to 10%. If you got enough room, you can stress it to 10. I don't think we got that much room, so I'm gonna put it at 5, put it at 6. And sometimes that fee is deferred to close the gap. If you don't have enough money to close the deal, you may have to take that $4 million you thought you was gonna make at closing and put 3 million of it under the line just to get your deal closed. Bond underwriting fees, so it's going to cost us about $1.3 million to get that done. Consultant fee, I've got that in there. That's for some top line consultants that we use that help us get this thing done. And then the performance bond for my contractor, where they guarantee us a finished project. If they don't do it, the bond will come in and finish it, but they give us completion guarantees on dates, times, and they give us hard cost pricing. So that gives us a really good timeline to get this done. We got $9 million in soft costs because that includes interest carry. No, I took the interest reserve out. I think that interest reserve right there is going to be about $6 million. I'm gonna take that out because I don't know that number yet. And so right now my eligible basis is like 89 million. 68 million construction costs. All this other stuff is carry costs and et cetera. And then we need to figure out, is this thing going to be feasible? And so just coming down here looking at if we were to refinance this thing at 100%, My numbers are way off because I got 107 million in value in 10. My lender looked at this and gave me 129 million in 4. So what that tells me is that my rents here for this market are too low. So if I had, let's just see what happens here. I'm gonna show y'all what I'm looking at. My rents are too low. So we're looking right here at a refi proceeds. This is just if I refinance this in 10 years, $107 million value. Watch what happens when we change the rent. Just a couple of $100 on copy. Paste. Survey says, not much, couple of million. What would happen if these joints were, and say only, yeah, it was just a couple of hundred, just a couple of million. What if this were 1,500, 1,600, 2,000, and 2,300? Because they very well may be. Let's make that 1,900. And let's make this, yeah, 1,900, 2,000, 2,300. We're gonna copy that. We're gonna drop that in here. Paste. Oh boy, I see those numbers jumping. Paste. Survey says from 110 million. Wow, 130 million. That must be where my rents are close to, because she gave me, and she gave me that in 4 years, 5 years. I can pull that up here in just a minute. But so now all I've done is I built a pro forma. We've got all of our expenses in. I know these expenses are in line with everything. I've got my hard costs of the land in. I've got my hard costs of the construction. I've got my contingencies. I've got all of my fees to close the loan. So I've got what we call, when we talk about sources and uses, these are the sources and uses of capital. These are the sources, or these are the uses of where the money goes. This is the total of the sources and uses. Now your sources are here. I got a construction loan that will be 100% of that, or 95% of that. So this is where your source of money comes from, financing, or do you have a second loan with it, or do you have equity with it? But this model is built primarily for my bonds. And so we've got basically 100% loan or 95% loan coming in to cover that. Here's our debt service amount and everything factored in. We don't have a second loan, but we can use that just as a refi like I did in 10 years. What the value of this thing's going to be, 128 million based on what I have in this right now. Then I've got a sponsored GP contribution, nothing LP equity, 100% at 4.7 million. We have about that much raised in this deal right now, from the investors that get somewhere between 8, 9, 10% on their money, tax exempt, which equates to about a 15, 16, 18% return if you were looking at this any other way. But based on this exit, oh my God, we'd have gross proceeds in 10 years at 237 million. Why does it show my debt at 209? I don't know that, but I'm gonna figure that out here in just a minute. But this is just a function of the spreadsheet. But we ain't gonna focus on that because we know we only have 89 million in sources right here, right? Total project cost. So I've got to sell off in here showing my debt wrong. But what we do have gross proceeds of 237 million in 10 years from a project that cost $68 million to construct. And that's based on a 5.5 cap. Let's go to a 6 cap. And then that takes that down to 217. So now from here, this thing's only got 4 tabs. It gives you a monthly pro forma. It gives us an annual pro forma. And total debt service of 4.9. Cash flow after debt service when we get to year 3. This thing's making $3, $4, $5 million a year. There's an amortization, asset management. And then the asset management fee comes out. And cash flow for distribution. $3, $4, $5 million a year. Based on these rents. And so, and then the returns, wow, 148 million over and above the debt payoff. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in here now and figure out why my debt is doubling, because it shouldn't be. And check my rents and make sure I got all my rents right. And then now that the spreadsheet is built, the model is built, everything in here is built, and I'll give you a couple other pointers on this spreadsheet. Repair and maintenance detail. You could actually detail this out. R&M detail, we've got R&M down here in line item 89, we've got 145,000 a year. If you want to detail that out and go carpet per unit right here, and then it'll give you a total. If you want admin detail, you could detail out your admin expenses, where we have general and administrative costs. What would that be? Postage, copiers that you're paying a lease on, all those kind of things. This thing can get very granular if you wanted to. Here's your other FF&E. You know, what are your washers and dryers? How much are your all your appliances, all your blinds, everything? You can get that granular. Your hard cost construction, if you want to, I just lumped it into one, but you could literally mark it by foundations, framing, etc., roofs, windows, the month it starts and the duration, and this thing will put you out a Gantt chart that shows you a whole schedule to go along with this. So this is really just high level that I'm doing here to make sure that the math works. And once the math works, then you can get down into the weeds and make sure that everything works. But from all intents and purposes, from right now, this thing looks like a pretty dynamic deal based on a 10-year model. Now I just need to come in here and shore up my rents and see what those rents are in the county, tie this model to that, and I'll pretty much have a spreadsheet that works. And we'll carry the development forward. So, man, I've said a lot in the last 30, 40 minutes. Do we have any questions that hadn't been answered? Either in the chat or on Clubhouse?
Then answer you.
Okay.
Kind of lined up.
Well, I appreciate
You
it.
know, if you really chat on Zoom, but most of those I answered, you may be able to second or add something to those, but I've answered the basics of those if you want to look at those as well.
I did. They look good. So y'all, Courtney's up here helping me. She was the first one to pop in the room, but she provides a lot of financing for these types of deals for us. She got me into my land loans that got us in a position to do this. She has several lending sources that can, if you guys are wanting to develop a house or a duplex or a small complex or something like that, she's got lending platforms for that. If you are refinancing any projects, she's got opportunities for that as well. So Courtney, you ought to put your information in the chat real quick here on Clubhouse and in the and on Zoom, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll do. But you did have a few other questions.
Okay.
On the Zoom, she said, are there any other restrictions that you avoid when looking for land? And what is the average time you spend working on the proforma?
Okay, good questions, Keita. Restrictions on the land. Well, I'll say this, they definitely want to be in an area that is, Casey just came into the room, Clubhouse. Hey Casey, what's up, buddy? We're on Zoom with Alvin.live if you want to tap in and going through my performance. What I look for, you have to think about this as a place where people want to live. So when I think about restrictions, I would more rather think about, would somebody like to live in this area? Are the schools good? That's really good. And typically, when you marry a high average median income, when you get an AMI above 80,000, everything that you would probably avoid is not there. I mean, you typically would have good schools in that area. You would probably have access to grocery stores in that area. You would probably have access to there may even be a Starbucks in the area at $80,000 annual average area median income. So in that area, you're really looking for I don't think there'll be much to avoid at first glance when you're looking at that. But so anything else that comes up will be found out through the due diligence period. And then we could typically address those things then. Close to highways and et cetera, not necessarily, because I mean, it's stupid, but we're around Texas now, man, they're building neighborhoods right up against the freeway. I don't know how those people are going to sleep. They probably won't, but that's the premium that people are paying for land now. And then Andrea asked, what's the average time I spend working on a pro forma? Man, I have 3 or 4 performers for every project. One of them is one that I work on continuously until the thing is completed. One of them I put together on the front end that's ultra conservative, just to see as a worst case scenario. And then I'll have one that I typically share with our partners, investors, and lenders, because this is the one that I think will hit. It's ultra conservative, but not as conservative as the ultra one. And then I have one that man, if we just knock the cover off of the ball, this is what we can do with it. And those are the ones that I like to look at and tweak, because I get data from our operations, and it drives me to always try to make sure that the operations are performing in a way that we can knock the cover off of that ball and get to what that performer looks like. So on the front end, for weeks and months and then all the way through the project until it is finished, I have, like I said, many copies of a performer for the same asset. But one of them is locked when it's final, and that's the one we use, and we don't change that anymore. And then as the market changes or as things change as we're going through the process, I'll update the one that I work off all the time. Let's see, we got a few more messages.
On those performance and underwriting, when you're looking for financing, we typically tell you you're typically going to have, as Alvin said, 5 different types of performance. One that you go out for lending, and as he says, that you tweak. So there's a lot of work that he puts into those performance to make sure you can adjust at any time.
Andrea, Miss Branch, I don't know if it's Andrea or Andrea, how you pronounce it. No, we're not only working in areas with 80,000 AMI. We've got one in Wisconsin that's 92,000. But I can tell you from a new construction perspective, it's really hard to get anything to pencil below that, because when you get into having rents that are less than $1,500 a month, you almost can't afford to pay for a new unit construction. So I'm not saying we're staying away from those. Those just are not target areas for new development right now. If there are some properties that are in existing areas that have an AMI less than that, we are acquiring properties. I submitted a LOI today for 515 units in New Orleans. They were asking $116,000 a unit, and it's set out there for a couple of months. And we went back to the seller and said, "Hey, man, we got a good 80,000 a unit right now. We can close in less than 90 days. Put that in writing for me, and I'll submit it to the group." And he submitted it to the seller just this morning. So we're looking to grow by 1,000 units of existing units a year, and then this year we're going to start 1,000 units of new construction, and I can get a couple of my friends in an area of finding some more entitled land that they'll partner with us on. That'll get us in a position to start close to 3,000 units next year. That's the goal. So. Let me see. Have you developed in Indianapolis yet? No, I haven't. But I am consulting on a project right now in Bloomington, Illinois, which is right down the street from Indianapolis. And I believe the area median income in Bloomington is like right about 72,000 or 70,000 or something like that. So, okay, good. We sure looking forward to it. And there are ways to help pay for these when the AMI is not that high. The cities say they need this, they want it, they can throw in TIF dollars. That's tax incremental financing, where they take sales tax dollars from the other parts of the city and give it to a developer to help spur development. So those kind of things really help. Waiving the impact fees, I just showed you $1.2 million in fees from the city. They can waive fees like that to help these projects get done. And so there's a lot of things that can happen along the way, and in conjunction with other dollars. And there are a lot of I don't like to talk about government programs and grants and things like that, because there's so many of them and they're different in every market, and they don't always exist. And you don't want to build a model to go out and do stuff based on free money that may not exist when you get ready for it. So the size of entitled land we're seeking. Well, Cheryl, if we were here, I guess, across the Sun Belt, from Texas to Florida up to the Carolinas, Georgia, Kentucky, those regions, that part, the smile of the country, we typically look for acreage of land that would allow us to do about 20 units per acre. And we like to do developments above 200 units. So I don't want to say minimum 10 acres, but somewhere close to a minimum of 10 acres of land. It does not necessarily have to be entitled. Depending on where it is and how much it is, I may prefer it to be unentitled, because we could work with the seller. Because if they got some land that's been there for sale for 2 or 3 years, nobody buying it, they'd probably be really apt to work with us to allow us to get entitlements in place and all of that stuff before they wanted any money. So we can actually pay them more for their land or give them an incentive to stay in a deal with us until it's entitled, until we can get it shovel ready, just because it's not entitled. So we won't pay, we'll pay a fraction of what it costs, and then we'll get the entitlements done and we'll be able to monetize that as well. So those are some of the things we're looking for when we're doing that. Is there a price per acre that we like? Not necessarily, because that depends on the market. So I don't want to say 10,000 an acre, 20,000 an acre, because in some markets that's not even feasible. And in some markets that's way too much. And the biggest thing to think about when we're looking at this kind of stuff is, would you want to live there? If you wouldn't want to live there, nobody else probably will want to live there either. And if you were a lender, would you loan somebody your money to build there? And if you wouldn't loan anybody your money to build there, nobody else will probably loan their money there either. So you're thinking about Mississippi. No, Jackson State don't have no water. The state of Mississippi's water is in turmoil. They have more issues than a low area median income. They don't have no water. Nobody's going to loan anybody to build any money to build anything in Mississippi until they cure that water problem. Flint, Michigan, same thing, water problem, horrible. People are moving out of those markets because there's no water to drink. The schools are horrible. So you have to think about those kind of just simple things when you're thinking about the development. And again, would you loan your money to somebody building in that market? And if the answer is no, then that could be a pretty good indicator that our lenders won't either. So just keep those simple things in mind when you're doing that. And are you interested in fully occupied properties of 20 plus units? No, they would have to be over 100 units, closer to 150 units, but minimum 100 units. And they wouldn't have to be fully occupied, but they have to be at least over 100 units. And that's for me personally, that's for our company. I mean, if there's some small one-off deals of 10, 12 units somewhere in a really great city, great pocket, we may look at that. I found a deal yesterday. A guy sent me with 12 units right here in Dallas, right off of 75 and 635. $2 million, about 160,000 a townhome, two-story townhomes. Well, in some markets, well, almost anywhere around Dallas, you can't find a townhome for less than 250, 300,000. So that might be a great buy. I'm gonna go by there and look at those today. The rent, they're all rented. Rents are $1,300 a month. That's pretty cheap for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage townhome. That's super cheap in Dallas, especially right off of the freeway, unless they can't sleep. You know, the rents might be so cheap there because they so much freaking noise off the freeway, nobody will stay there. I don't know, but we'll get by there and take a look. And yeah, that's it. And so there will probably
Alan,
be
you have some questions in the chat for Clubhouse as well. If you want to talk about any
Okay.
of those questions also.
there will probably be a part 4 to this after I get my rents in, and that'll probably be on Monday. Let me see. Do you have a mentorship? Yes, Steve, we do, man. My email is alvin@multifamilymonopoly.com. alvin@multifamilymonopoly.com. Shoot me an email and we can talk about it. What was the discount percentage used? Brian, I don't remember what that was. Casey, what's up, buddy? Less than what a month per unit to stay away from? Cheryl, I don't understand that question. You want to come back to me? You have a reference contract on off-market property that has 260 rooms on 230 acres and is distressed. Would you be interested in more information? 260 rooms, that sounds like a rooming house. That's not really my bag. 230 acres and it's all distressed. Let's talk about it. Roman, send me an email. I don't know that I'll be interested, but 230 acres, it sounds like it's in Mississippi somewhere. But we can sure talk about it. And if I don't know, maybe somebody else will have some interest that we run across. What time Monday, Steve? Probably around the same time, sometime between 12 and 12:30. My email is alvin@multifamilymonopoly.com. alvin@multifamilymonopoly.com. Yeah, y'all feel free to hit me up and let's see, can we get some more people to go find some land for us to develop on. And man, I appreciate y'all's time today. I'm gonna tap out. If there's anybody, any other questions, just shoot me an email, alvin@multifamilymonopoly.com, and I'll respond accordingly. I appreciate y'all for spending the last hour of your day with me. And I'll see y'all on Monday for part 4, and I think that'll probably wrap that up. Appreciate you, Miss Branch. Kid, appreciate you. Drop shipping queen, thank you. Appreciate y'all so much. And all of these videos, there's 4 of them, or 3 of them now, and 4, they'll all be on my YouTube, probably by the end of the weekend. I'll work on that sometime this weekend, downloading. So I appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Oops.